Good evening, weary traveler, and welcome once more to a tranquil journey through the quiet, vast, and profoundly challenging corridors of human history, as the day's last golden light softly, slowly, and peacefully fades away, retreating beyond the distant horizon, and the modern world outside your window begins its gentle, nightly hush. We extend to you a warm invitation. We encourage you to settle deeply, very deeply, into your most comfortable and secure space. Allow your thoughts to gently and serenely unwind, slowly untangling themselves from the day's persistent concerns. Prepare your mind, calmly and patiently, for a truly immersive, yet profoundly tranquil voyage into a time long, long past, to a world where civilization was a mere fragile seed, and every breath, every act, was a testament to sheer, unwavering, and quiet perseverance against overwhelming odds. Tonight, we will venture far, far beyond the hurried, often fragmented rhythm of our contemporary existence. We will turn our gaze, with deliberate intention, towards a pivotal, iconic chapter in the shaping of a vast continent. The early colonial period in North America. Specifically, our focus will be on what it was really like surviving the harsh realities of early colonial life, providing a deep, meticulous dive into the everyday existence of the initial settlers and pioneers, who dared to establish new homes in an often hostile, utterly unbroken landscape. This is a narrative that seeks to transcend the grand, romanticized tales of discovery and conquest. Instead, we will delve into the harsh, often unyielding, yet deeply repetitive, and surprisingly uniform routines that governed the lives of millions, bound by the relentless, predictable, yet powerful demands of establishing a new home, a new community in a world that was both breathtakingly beautiful and profoundly unforgiving. Imagine, for a long, quiet, contemplative moment, a life dictated not by the familiar comforts of established towns, but by the raw, unceasing, and often brutal demands of nature itself. A world where the dawn brought not the promise of leisure or novelty, but the absolute certainty of endless familial labor, where every precious hour, every single minute was consumed by a single, often physically exhausting repetitive task performed within the vast ancient forests under the ever-present, watchful gaze of the sun, or beneath the ominous gray skies of approaching storms. This was a life of quiet, profound endurance, of deep physical strain, and of an almost hypnotic monotony that, paradoxically, can now serve to lull the modern mind into a state of deep calm, a gentle invitation to surrender to a simpler, more arduous rhythm. We will explore the subtle sounds of falling timber, the rhythmic swing of an axe, the pervasive scent of wood smoke and damp earth, the endless, precise movements of human hands synchronized with the demanding ancient rhythms of wilderness survival, and the profound, often terrifying silence of an unexplored continent. This is a story not of heroic battles or dramatic political intrigues, but of the silent, persistent grind of daily existence, of the human spirit's quiet resilience in the face of overwhelming natural forces, unpredictable weather, and profound isolation. It is a narrative woven from countless threads of physical exhaustion, of ceaseless repetitive motions, and of the subtle yet ever-present challenges of basic survival, of feeding a family, of building a community from absolute scratch, and of forging a future in an entirely new, often terrifying, yet breathtakingly beautiful world. It is designed to be a gentle lullaby, an invitation for your own mind to find its perfect stillness, allowing the rhythmic, unceasing sounds and detailed sensations of a bygone era to guide you towards a truly restorative rest. Having gently settled ourselves into the contemplation of a bygone era, allowing our minds to slowly drift towards the vast, open landscapes of human endeavor, let us now transport our thoughts, calmly and with profound understanding, to the very edge of established civilization, to a realm of immense, unbroken wilderness. We are about to immerse ourselves, not in the bustling cities or grand empires of the past, but in the raw, relentless, and profoundly repetitive reality of daily existence for countless individuals who dared to venture forth and establish a new life on the untamed American colonial frontier. This is a story of sheer quiet endurance, of sensory immersion in a world fundamentally bound to the raw power of nature, and of the unique kind of weariness that only constant, unceasing labor in a vast, indifferent landscape can induce, a weariness so deep it might paradoxically lull your own mind into a profound and dreamless sleep. Imagine, for a long, quiet moment, the very start of such a day, deeply rooted in the unpredictable yet demanding patterns of the wild. The hour is impossibly early, long before the first hint of golden light has even begun to paint the cold, gray eastern sky. which is still shrouded in the deep, cool, indigo blue of You are awakened not by a jarring alarm clock, but by the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in the surrounding forest. Perhaps the soft, distant hoot of an owl, now retreating as light approaches, or the faint, almost silent rustle of leaves as a small, unseen animal stirs from its nocturnal slumber. Your temporary sleeping shelter, perhaps a crude lean-to fashioned from freshly cut branches and rough animal skins, or a simple blanket spread directly on the cool damp earth beneath the vast, towering canopy of ancient trees, feels profoundly cool and dark, its meager protection barely holding back the pervasive coolness of the morning air. The ground beneath you, hard and uneven, is covered with a thin, brittle layer of dry leaves and damp earth, its texture rough and familiar against your weary body. You rise slowly, stiffly, your muscles already aching with a deep, persistent soreness from yesterday's relentless toil, a low, constant thrum of fatigue already present deep within your limbs. The air here, even before the sun begins to warm the world, carries a crisp, clean scent of pine needles, of damp earth, of decaying leaves, and the subtle, wild, untamed aroma of the deep, ancient forest. The process of preparing for the day is quick, efficient, and deeply habitual, utterly devoid of any lingering luxury or modern convenience. There is no running water piped into your wilderness dwelling, no warm basin with flowing taps. Instead, you would carry a sturdy wooden bucket or a simple metal pail down a narrow, winding, often treacherous path to a nearby stream, its waters cold and clear, or to a small hidden icy spring that bubbles up from the earth. Imagine dipping the pail into the clear, frigid water, feeling its bracing, sharp chill against your hands. You might splash a meager handful of this invigorating, cold water onto your face, feeling its sharp, shocking coolness awaken your skin. A fleeting moment of raw freshness quickly absorbed by the dry, crisp forest air. Your hair, coarse and practical, is quickly smoothed with your calloused fingers. Your clothing is simple, unadorned, reflecting your pioneering status, sturdy buckskin trousers or rough wool breeches, a thick linen or homespun cotton shirt, perhaps an additional coarse wool jacket. These garments are chosen primarily for their sheer durability against thorns, rough bark, and persistent wear rather than for any comfort or appearance. Its fabric feels thick, almost stiff, against your skin, a familiar, unchanging sensation that defines your daily attire. The air in the tiny, temporary shelter is still heavy, filled with the quiet, anticipatory hum of the impending workday. There is no time for idle conversation. The profound silence of the wilderness is broken only by your own soft, even breathing, and the subtle rustle of your worn clothing as you prepare to face the monumental tasks ahead. Breakfast, a crucial source of raw energy for the grueling hours ahead, is meager and quickly consumed. It consists primarily of basic, nourishing staples, reflecting the direct, often unpredictable, bounty of the immediate wilderness. Perhaps a piece of hard, dry cornbread, its texture rough and dense against your tongue, softened with a few sips of cool, clear stream water. Or perhaps a bowl of simple, thick gruel made from boiled oats or cornmeal, tasting faintly of smoke from the small cooking fire and raw grains. The aromas are simple, earthy, utilitarian, reflecting the direct, unadorned, and often monotonous bounty of the immediate land. This meal is not consumed for pleasure, but purely for fundamental sustenance, providing the minimal, essential fuel necessary for your body to endure the long, demanding hours ahead. It is consumed swiftly, silently, almost mechanically, a direct reflection of the day's unyielding schedule. There is no lingering, no extended conversation. The focus is entirely on the quick intake of calories, before the sun begins its relentless ascent and the unbroken forest calls out for your labor. Then comes the walk to your chosen worksite, often just a short distance from your temporary shelter, yet always deeply imbued with a profound sense of purpose and an intimate, almost sacred connection to the raw, untamed land you are striving to shape and cultivate. Imagine stepping out from your modest lean-to into the pre-dawn stillness of the vast ancient forest. The air outside is cool, crisp, carrying the pervasive, rich scent of pine needles, of damp earth, of decaying leaves, and the subtle, wild, untamed aroma of the deep, ancient woods. The ground beneath your worn leather boots or bare feet is uneven, covered with a thick, soft carpet of dry leaves, fallen branches, and soft, yielding earth, its texture rough and familiar against your soles. You are often alone, a solitary figure dwarfed by the immense, living landscape. The only sounds are the soft, rhythmic crunch of your footsteps on the forest floor, a quiet counterpoint to the profound stillness of the pre-dawn wilderness. The sense of anticipation is not one of excitement or adventure, but of grim, determined resignation, of entering a monumental, ancient task where your individual will must be entirely subsumed by the overwhelming power and persistent resistance of nature. Upon finally reaching the chosen site for your day's monumental task, the true repetitive toil of early colonial frontier life begins. The ground before you is wild, unbroken, covered with centuries of dense forest growth, towering ancient trees, thick underbrush that claws at your clothing, and ancient gnarled roots crisscrossing the soil like a hidden network. The air here feels heavy, thick with the earthy scent of moist soil, of growing timber, and of the unique, resinous aroma of freshly cut pine. Imagine yourself taking your initial stance, a solitary figure in an immense, living landscape, yet connected by an unspoken purpose to countless other pioneers performing the exact same arduous task in scattered clearings across the vast, challenging frontier. The very first, and perhaps most defining, task of building a life on the frontier is the monumental, back-breaking effort of clearing the land. This involves the arduous, physically exhausting work of felling massive trees, removing incredibly stubborn stumps, and clearing thick, often thorny underbrush to create a space, however small, however imperfect, for your future home and nascent fields. If it is felling season, you would grasp your heavy double-bitted axe, feeling the worn, smooth wood of its handle, its grain deeply etched by countless hours of labor, the cold, unforgiving weight of its sharp steel head. You position yourself carefully before a towering pine or an ancient oak, its rough, thick bark a formidable, almost impenetrable barrier. With a slow, rhythmic, powerful motion, you begin to swing the axe, its sharp blade biting deep into the thick timber with a resounding thud. The sounds are distinct and deeply repetitive. The loud, clear thwack of the axe as it strikes the wood, sending large, fragrant chips flying with surprising force, followed by the soft, rhythmic pull as you extract the blade. This motion is repeated countless times, back and forth, up and down, your powerful muscles straining with every swing, your breath coming in rhythmic gasps that feel raw in your throat. The air is filled with the sharp, invigorating, resinous scent of freshly cut timber, a clean, raw aroma that mixes with the metallic temps of your own sweat. As the axe continues its tireless work, you would begin to hear the subtle groaning and creaking of the massive tree, a low, mournful sound as its internal fibers slowly, inexorably begin to give way, resisting its fate. The sounds of breaking branches, the soft rustle of leaves high above, the gradual, terrifying shift in the forest's ambient quiet. Finally, with a monumental final effort and a slow, agonizing groan that seems to shake the very ground the tree begins its inevitable, majestic descent, crashing down with a thunderous roar, a sound that reverberates through the entire forest, momentarily shattering the profound stillness before silence slowly, gradually, begins to reclaim its dominion, leaving only the sound of your own heavy, labored breathing and the rhythmic thumping of your heart, a testament to raw physical conquest. Once the colossal trees are felled, the work shifts to the equally arduous task of removing their stubborn stumps and clearing the remaining tenacious brush. Imagine spending hours on your hands and knees, feeling the rough, damp earth beneath your calloused hands, digging tirelessly around incredibly stubborn roots that seem to grip the soil with ancient strength, hacking away at persistent, thorny undergrowth with a heavy hoe or a sharp machete. The sounds are distinct and repetitive, the soft scrape of metal on soil, the rhythmic thunk of roots being slowly severed, the insistent rustle of dry leaves and branches being gathered and piled for burning. This painstaking, continuous labor is performed again and again, across the entire, slowly expanding clearing, an endless progression of removal, each root and branch a small, hard-won victory against the untamed wilderness. The aroma of disturbed earth, of raw, broken plants, fills your nostrils, an unchanging, earthy part of your sensory world. After the land is sufficiently cleared, the monumental task of building your permanent shelter, your log cabin, truly begins. This is a slow, laborious process, undertaken often with only the simplest, most fundamental tools and the unyielding strength of your own hands, often with the communal help of neighbors during a barn raising or cabin raising. Imagine selecting sturdy logs, carefully chosen for their straightness, thickness, and inherent resilience. You would then meticulously strip the bark from each log, a repetitive action of peeling back the rough, outer layer, feeling the smooth, cool, newly exposed wood beneath, its aroma clean and profoundly resinous. Then comes the precise, physically demanding work of notching the logs, carefully carving interlocking joints at each end with your axe or adze, ensuring they fit together snugly, forming strong, secure, and weatherproof corners. Imagine the rhythmic sound of your axe or adze, slowly, methodically chipping away at the wood, the soft fall of wood chips at your feet, the careful measurement and adjustment of each cut, a dance between raw material and human precision. This precise, patient work is performed countless times, for each log, for each wall, for each corner of your future home, a testament to unwavering craftsmanship. The raising of the cabin walls, especially for a larger structure, is an even more arduous, cooperative task, often requiring the crucial assistance of any nearby neighbors. If you are fortunate enough to have them within a day's ride, imagine the immense collective effort of lifting each heavy log, slowly, laboriously, into its designated place, guiding it precisely into its carefully carved notch. The sounds are deep and physical, the strained grunts of collective effort, the soft creak of ropes and pulleys, the dull thud of one massive log settling perfectly into another, the occasional sharp clang of a hammer driving in a wooden peg. This rhythmic, slow construction, log by patient log, builds your home, your family's future, a tangible testament to your persistence against the wilderness and the strength of nascent community. The air is thick with the clean, comforting scent of fresh-cut timber, an aroma that signifies not just progress, but the creation of a secure sanctuary. This meticulous, physical construction, piece by piece, forms the secure walls that will shelter you from the brutal elements, a monument to deliberate, shared effort. Once the basic structure of the cabin is standing, the work shifts to making it truly habitable, to transforming a mere shell into a functioning home. Imagine the patient, repetitive task of filling the gaps between the logs with chinking, a mixture of mud, clay moss, small stones, or even animal hair, carefully pressing it into every crack and crevice to seal against the biting wind, the penetrating cold, and the relentless insects. The feel of the damp, cool, earthy mixture on your hands, the soft squishing sound as it is slowly, meticulously pressed into place, is a repetitive, soothing action, a testament to thoroughness. Then comes the construction of a simple, yet vital, fireplace and chimney, built from local field stones or a mixture of mud and sticks, a central point for warmth, for cooking, and for light during the long, dark evenings. The rhythmic tapping of hammer on stone, the soft scrape of mortar, the gradual setting of each stone into its place, these are the quiet sounds of building warmth and security. The profound aroma of wood smoke from your first fire, its warmth slowly filling the small cabin, is a deeply comforting, primal scent, signifying not just a structure, but the creation of a true, living home, a sanctuary in the wilderness. The daily acquisition of food is a constant, unending responsibility, intricately intertwined with every waking hour. There is no nearby general store or bustling market to purchase provisions. Your survival depends entirely on your own unceasing efforts and the raw, often unpredictable, generosity of the untamed land. If it is hunting season, imagine walking slowly, silently, through the dense, ancient forest, your senses acutely attuned to every subtle sound, every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig underfoot. The air is crisp, cool, carrying the sharp scent of damp earth, of decaying leaves, and the subtle, elusive aroma of unseen wild animals. The only sounds are your own soft, rhythmic footsteps, the gentle whisper of the wind, and the distant, muffled calls of unseen forest creatures. Hours might pass without success, demanding immense patience, unwavering vigilance, and a profound acceptance of nature's indifference. The physical effort of tracking, of waiting, of stalking, of the final, decisive action, is immense. The success or failure of a hunt directly, immediately impacts your family's very sustenance, creating a constant, underlying tension, a quiet burden in the quiet pursuit. If it is farming season, after the land has been painstakingly cleared of its ancient trees and stubborn roots, the vital process of planting begins, a deeply repetitive yet profoundly essential activity. Imagine yourself walking slowly, deliberately, along each newly formed furrow in your small, rough, hand-cleared field, your bare feet sinking gently into the soft, disturbed earth. Your hand, holding a small pouch filled with precious corn, bean, or squash seeds, moves with a practiced, rhythmic sweep. You gently scatter the seeds, a small, continuous shower of life falling into the waiting, open soil. The sound is subtle, almost imperceptible, the soft rustle of seeds in your hand, the faintest patter as they land on the earth, and the gentle whisper of the breeze. This precise, repetitive motion is performed again and again, across your entire small field, an endless progression of sowing. Each tiny seed a silent promise of future sustenance, a quiet investment in the coming year. The aroma of disturbed earth, earthy and subtly sweet, fills your nostrils, an unchanging, comforting part of your sensory world. Protecting your precious crops and scarce livestock from wild animals is another continuous, often monotonous, responsibility that demands constant vigilance. Imagine spending long hours, particularly at dusk and dawn, watching over your small fenced-in plot. The sounds of the wilderness intensify as night approaches. The distant, chilling howl of a wolf, the unseen rustle of leaves as a deer passes silently through the undergrowth, the unsettling hoot of an owl, a subtle crackling of branches as a bear might approach. You might spend hours simply observing, your eyes scanning the dense tree line, your ears straining for any unusual sound. You might be tasked with setting simple, repetitive snares for small game, or building crude, temporary fences to deter larger animals, checking them morning and evening. This vigilant, repetitive watchfulness, often performed in profound silence, under the vast, open sky, was yet another facet of the pioneer's unyielding daily life, a quiet, ceaseless battle against the persistent, unpredictable forces of nature. The profound lack of modern conveniences meant that almost every aspect of daily life involved immense, often tedious, repetitive labor. Washing clothes meant hauling heavy buckets of water from the stream, perhaps heating it over a sputtering fire, and then laboriously scrubbing coarse fabrics by hand against a washboard or rough stone, the rhythmic slosh of water and the repetitive rubbing motions consuming precious silent hours. Preparing meals meant grinding grain by hand into flour using a heavy mortar and pestle, or perhaps a simple hand mill churning butter with rhythmic strokes. Preserving meats through salting or smoking over a slow fire all long. Physical processes filled with repetitive motions and earthy, pervasive smells. Every single item in your cabin, from the simplest wooden spoon to the roughest homespun blanket, was either painstakingly made by hand, slowly, deliberately, or brought from afar with immense effort and at great cost. The constant physical demand, the endless, unchanging cycle of chores, meant that true idleness was an almost unheard of luxury, and true leisure was a rare, precious commodity. The pervasive, often absolute, silence of the frontier, broken only by the natural sounds of the wilderness or your own deliberate labor, could be profoundly isolating. You might go days, even weeks, without seeing another human face beyond your immediate family, if you were fortunate enough to have them with you. The sounds of the wilderness, the ceaseless whisper of the wind through the tall, ancient trees, the distant cries of wild animals, the rhythmic drumming of rain on the cabin roof, the gentle splash of a nearby stream, become your constant companions, blending into a raw, natural symphony. This immense, unbroken silence can be both profoundly comforting, allowing for deep introspection and a quiet connection with nature, and at times, deeply unsettling, almost unnerving, emphasizing your profound solitude and complete reliance on your own two hands. Your thoughts become your primary indeed, your only companions, a constant internal monologue as you observe the minute, almost imperceptible details of the passing wilderness, a new leaf unfurling, a small insect crossing your path, the subtle shifts in cloud formations, the steady flow of a stream. This forced solitude, this immense quietude, could lead to a deep, meditative state, a profound connection with the self and the vastness around you, or it could amplify any underlying anxieties, emphasizing your complete dependence on your own resourcefulness. As the sun begins its slow, gradual descent towards the western horizon, painting the sky with fiery oranges, deep purples, and soft fading blues, the air gradually, slowly, begins to cool again, sometimes dramatically, bringing with it the biting, penetrating chill of the wilderness night, a stark contrast to the day's heat. The shadows lengthen, stretching endlessly across the forest floor, before finally, inevitably, merging into the complete, profound darkness of night. Your cabin, small and simple, its single window glowing softly from the light of a flickering fire, becomes a beacon of warmth and security in the vast, encompassing blackness of the forest. Inside, the fire crackles softly, its warmth a comforting presence against the pervasive chill, its light dancing on the rough log walls. And as you finally, slowly, lay your weary body down upon your simple sleeping mat, your muscles aching, your entire being filled with profound fatigue, you know with deep certainty that tomorrow, the sun will rise again, inevitably, and the endless, silent, demanding work of building a life on the untamed frontier will simply, quietly, continue another day, another step, another challenge overcome, guiding you, through sheer exhaustion, towards a deep, restorative sleep. Having deeply immersed ourselves in the stark, unyielding realities of building a life from absolute scratch on the untamed American colonial frontier, experiencing the immense physical toil of clearing dense land, constructing rudimentary shelter with bare hands, and enduring the profound, pervasive isolation dictated by the vast, unbroken wilderness, let us now slowly and with a profound shift in perspective turn our gaze. We are about to step into a vastly different, yet equally demanding sphere of frontier existence. The life of a quiet, meticulous observer, a dedicated scientist whose relentless pursuit was not to conquer the land, nor to extract its immediate resources for sustenance in the same way a farmer or hunter might, but to meticulously record, understand, and categorize its vibrant, diverse, and often unseen botanical beauty. We speak of John Bartram, widely celebrated as America's first truly native botanist, whose extraordinary life was a profound testament to an almost unparalleled perseverance, an obsessive attention to minute detail, and a deep, often solitary dedication to deciphering and capturing nature's most silent, rooted wonders. Imagine Bartram's early life, a tapestry woven from threads of humble origins and an insatiable intellectual curiosity. Born in 1699 into a plain Quaker farming family near Derby, Pennsylvania, his upbringing was one of simplicity, hard work, and a profound connection to the land, mirroring in many ways the peasant life we have explored, yet with a distinct internal drive. Unlike the more privileged figures we might study, Bartram's formal education was exceptionally limited, ending at an early age. He was a self-taught man, an autodidact whose vast knowledge was acquired not from grand universities or extensive libraries, but directly from the living, breathing book of nature itself. From a very young age, even amidst the arduous, daily chores of farm life, a deep, intrinsic, and almost obsessive fascination with the natural world, particularly with plants, began to subtly stir and blossom within his young, inquisitive mind. Unlike the often rigid academic studies of many European naturalists of his era, Bartram's approach to understanding nature was always rooted in direct, hands-on, deeply personal observation, undertaken with a quiet, almost reverent awe for the intricate workings of the natural world. Imagine him as a young boy spending long, quiet, unhurried hours wandering through the simple fields and sparse woodlands surrounding his family farm. His gaze sharp, his mind curious, meticulously observing every unique plant, every delicate flower, every sturdy tree, trying with unwavering patience to capture their elusive forms, their subtle variations, and their vibrant, intricate colors, all within the silent theater of his own deeply absorbed attention. This was a quiet passion, pursued with an ever-increasing intensity, slowly, steadily setting the stage for his extraordinary and groundbreaking future endeavors. Bartram's passion for botany truly ignited in his early 20s, sparked by a seemingly simple, yet ultimately pivotal, encounter. One day, while engaged in the repetitive, monotonous labor of plowing his field, a task we have described in its full, physically demanding detail, he paused. His eye caught the intricate, delicate beauty of a small daisy, blooming quietly amidst the turned earth. This moment of quiet observation, a brief respite from physical toil, ignited a profound curiosity within him. He wondered about its structure, its propagation, its very essence. From that moment, his life slowly began to pivot. He acquired books on botany and natural history, often teaching himself Latin in the quiet solitude of his evenings. By the flickering light of a tallow candle, laboriously translating complex scientific texts, one word at a time, so that he might understand the classification and description of plants. Imagine the immense dedication, the slow, persistent effort required for such self-education, driven purely by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. This was not a quick, sudden acquisition of wisdom, but a patient, laborious accumulation, undertaken with a profound sense of purpose. The true immense challenge, and the ultimate test of John Bartram's profound perseverance truly began when he embarked on his life-defining mission to meticulously explore, document, and collect every single plant species he could find across the vast, largely uncharted wilderness of colonial North America. This was an undertaking of truly unimaginable scale, requiring not just extraordinary botanical knowledge, but immense, unwavering physical endurance, relentless, often dangerous travel through untamed lands, and an unshakable solitary dedication that transcended all personal comfort and financial security. Unlike the gentlemen collectors of Europe who often relied on others, Bartram was the primary explorer, collector, and sometimes even the financer of his own expeditions. He began embarking on these epic journeys, often alone, or with only a few trusted Native American guides or a single hardy companion, moving slowly, deliberately, always with his precious collecting tools, a spade, a pickaxe, specimen boxes, and his meticulous notebook carefully protected from the elements within waterproof containers strapped to his horse or his own back. Imagine, in vivid detail, Bartram's long solitary journeys through the vast, unbroken forests of colonial Pennsylvania, where towering, ancient trees formed an endless canopy overhead, filtering the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. Or picture him traversing the dark, watery, insect-ridden cypress stands of the Deep South, where the air was thick with humidity and the only sounds were the splash of an oar or the buzzing of unseen creatures. Or perhaps visualize him moving through the dense, ancient woods of the Allegheny Mountains, where stony paths wound through centuries-old trees and treacherous rocky outcrops. His primary mode of transport was often the simplest, most fundamental, walking for endless weary miles, his feet becoming intimately familiar with the varied terrain, his body constantly attuned to the subtle changes in the land. He navigated vast, silent rivers by crude canoe or sturdy flatboat, his paddle dipping rhythmically into the water, the gentle splash a consistent, soothing sound. Sometimes, he would ride a sure-footed horse through dense, thorny underbrush, its rhythmic plodding a constant companion, its muscles straining against the wilderness. The ambient sounds of his travels would have been the soft, rhythmic crunch of dry leaves underfoot, the gentle, continuous splash of paddles in quiet flowing waters, the almost imperceptible hum of unseen insects, and the grand, ever-present symphony of the wilderness around him, the distant cry of an eagle, the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the murmur of the wind through the tall pines, and the constant, subtle rustle of countless leaves. Nights were spent in crude, makeshift lean-tos, often under the vast, open, star-studded sky, or in simple, isolated frontier cabins, sharing meager meals and hushed stories with grizzled trappers, quiet Native Americans, or equally isolated settlers. The air would be cold, crisp, carrying the raw, earthy scent of wood smoke from a small campfire and the dampness of the forest floor. Sleep would be a hard-earned luxury, often fitful, disturbed by the unfamiliar, sometimes unsettling sounds of the wilderness, a distant howl, a branch snapping, a sudden rustle in the dark undergrowth. His days were an endless, demanding cycle of quiet, patient observation, meticulous collection, and painstaking, often agonizing, documentation. Imagine him spending hours absolutely still, almost perfectly camouflaged amidst the dense foliage, meticulously observing a rare wildflower as it slowly, gracefully unfurled its delicate petals to the sun, or a unique tree species, its bark patterned in an unusual way, its leaves a distinct shape. His eyes, sharp, patient, and incredibly discerning, would meticulously record every minute detail of their structure, their growth patterns, their intricate forms, their unique coloration, every subtle nuance. Then, with utmost care, he would collect a specimen, digging gently around its roots with his trowel, or carefully snipping a branch with his shears. The collected plant would then be carefully pressed between sheets of paper and placed into a specimen box, its delicate form preserved for future study. The artistic work would often begin in the field, with quick, precise sketches made in his notebook, capturing the plant's essential characteristics before it wilted. This was a long, slow, often agonizing process requiring intense, single-minded focus and an almost obsessive attention to the most minute of botanical details, often stretching for days, sometimes even weeks, for a single comprehensive entry in his vast collection. The profound silence of the wilderness, broken only by the natural sounds of the environment and the almost imperceptible sounds of his own scientific labor, became the serene, encompassing backdrop for his intense artistic and scientific concentration, allowing him to merge completely with his subject. Audubon's tireless travels led him to the most remote, untouched corners of the American frontier, places rarely seen or even imagined by settled society. He ventured into uncharted territories, pushed by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and artistic perfection. He faced immense, often life-threatening hardships, the biting, penetrating cold of northern winters, where snow drifted deep and food was scarce, the oppressive, suffocating heat and relentless swarms of mosquitoes in southern swamps, where illness lurked unseen, dangerous, unexpected encounters with wild animals, from formidable bears to venomous snakes, and the constant, underlying threat of debilitating illness or injury. Far from any possibility of medical aid, he was often impoverished, relying on the kindness of strangers, trading small sketches for food or shelter, or selling single drawings to fund the immense ongoing expenses of his monumental project. Yet, through all these arduous trials, through every setback and every moment of despair, his artistic and scientific resolve remained utterly unbroken. His journal entries, meticulously penned by the flickering, uncertain light of a small campfire, often while exhaustion gnawed at his limbs, reflect not despair or self-pity, but a quiet, persistent determination, an unshakable optimism, and a deep, abiding love for the wilderness and its myriad inhabitants. He understood with a prescient clarity that he was engaged in a quiet race against time, as the untamed landscapes he explored and the diverse bird populations he documented were slowly, inexorably being altered and diminished by the very settlers and industrial forces he occasionally encountered. The true, immense challenge and the ultimate test of Bartram's profound perseverance truly began with his ambitious project to meticulously explore, document and collect every single plant species he could find across the vast, largely uncharted wilderness of colonial North America. This was an undertaking of truly unimaginable scale, requiring not just extraordinary botanical knowledge, but immense, unwavering physical endurance, relentless, often dangerous travel through untamed lands, and an unshakable solitary dedication that transcended all personal comfort and financial security. He began embarking on these epic journeys, often alone, or with only a few trusted Native American guides, or a single, hardy companion, moving slowly, deliberately, always with his precious collecting tools, a spade, a pickaxe, specimen boxes, and his meticulous notebook carefully protected from the elements. Within waterproof containers strapped to his horse or his own back, imagine, in vivid detail, Bartram's long solitary journeys through the vast, unbroken forests of colonial Pennsylvania, where towering ancient trees formed an endless canopy overhead, filtering the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. Or picture him traversing the dark, watery, insect-ridden cypress stands of the deep south, where the air was thick with humidity, and the only sounds were the splash of an oar and the buzzing of unseen creatures. Or perhaps visualize him moving through the dense, ancient woods of the Allegheny Mountains, where stony paths wound through centuries-old trees and treacherous rocky outcrops. His primary mode of transport was often the simplest, most fundamental, walking for endless weary miles, his feet becoming intimately familiar with the varied terrain, his body constantly attuned to the subtle changes in the land. He navigated vast, silent rivers by crude canoe or sturdy flatboat, his paddle dipping rhythmically into the water, the gentle splash a consistent, soothing sound. Sometimes, he would ride a sure-footed horse through dense, thorny underbrush, its rhythmic plodding a constant companion, its muscles straining against the wilderness. The ambient sounds of his travels would have been the soft, rhythmic crunch of dry leaves underfoot, the gentle, continuous splash of paddles in quiet flowing waters, the almost imperceptible hum of unseen insects, and the grand, ever-present symphony of the wilderness around him, the distant cry of an eagle, the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the murmur of the wind through the tall pines, and the constant, subtle rustle of countless leaves. Nights were spent in crude, makeshift lean-tos, often under the vast, open, star-studded sky, or in simple, isolated frontier cabins, sharing meager meals and hushed stories with grizzled trappers, quiet Native Americans, or equally isolated settlers. The air would be cold, crisp, carrying the raw, earthy scent of wood smoke from a small campfire and the dampness of the forest floor. Sleep would be a hard-earned luxury, often fitful, disturbed by the unfamiliar, sometimes unsettling sounds of the wilderness, a distant howl, a branch snapping, a sudden rustle in the dark undergrowth. His days were an endless, demanding cycle of quiet, patient observation, meticulous collection, and painstaking, often agonizing, documentation. Imagine him spending hours absolutely still, almost perfectly camouflaged amidst the dense foliage, meticulously observing a rare spat wildflower as it slowly, gracefully unfurled its delicate petals to the sun, or a unique tree species, its bark patterned in an unusual way, its leaves a distinct shape. His eyes, sharp, patient, and incredibly discerning, would meticulously record every minute detail of their structure, their growth patterns, their intricate forms, their unique coloration, every subtle nuance. Then, with utmost care, he would collect a specimen, digging gently around its roots with his trowel, or carefully snipping a branch with his shears. The collected plant would then be carefully pressed between sheets of paper and placed into a specimen box, its delicate form preserved for future study. The artistic work would often begin in the field, with quick, precise sketches made in his notebook, capturing the plant's essential characteristics before it wilted. This was a long, slow, often agonizing process requiring intense, single-minded focus and an almost obsessive attention to the most minute of botanical details, often stretching for days, sometimes even weeks, for a single comprehensive entry in his vast collection. The profound silence of the wilderness, broken only by the natural sounds of the environment and the almost imperceptible sounds of his own scientific labor, became the serene, encompassing backdrop for his intense artistic and scientific concentration, allowing him to merge completely with his subject. Bartram also maintained an extensive correspondence with leading botanists and naturalists in Europe, including figures like Carl Linnaeus and Peter Collinson. Imagine him sitting in the quiet solitude of his study, a small, unassuming room in his farmhouse, meticulously penning long, detailed letters by the flickering light of a candle. His hand, perhaps calloused from farm work, would move slowly, carefully, forming each character, describing new plant discoveries, exchanging scientific observations, and discussing the nuances of botanical classification. The soft scratch of his quill pen on rough paper, the rustle of pages, the distant sounds of his family moving quietly in the adjacent rooms. These would be the backdrop to his intellectual labors. This quiet exchange of knowledge, spanning vast oceans and many months for each letter to travel, slowly built a network of scientific understanding across continents, laying the foundation for American botany. A testament to patient, persistent intellectual effort, he carefully packaged seeds and dried specimens, sending them across the Atlantic, expanding European understanding of American flora. The subtle aroma of dried leaves, of new seeds, would fill his study, a constant reminder of his work. John Bartram's entire life was a profound, inspiring testament to the immense, often unseen, power of quiet perseverance, of an almost obsessive, meticulous observation, and of an unwavering, singular commitment to a grand, deeply personal vision. His world was one defined by immense wilderness, by daunting, often solitary challenges, and by the constant subtle changes of nature itself. Yet, his approach to this world was one of deliberate, patient observation, of painstaking scientific collection, and of a deep, unshakable belief in the intrinsic beauty and scientific value of the natural world. He lived with a quiet, unrelenting dedication, using his keen eye and strong hands not for personal glory, but to illuminate the vast, unseen botanical life of a still-developing continent, to give silent voice to the countless plants that covered its forests and rivers. His lasting legacy is not merely in the grand collections of his published works or the specimens he gathered, which stand as enduring scientific records, but in the countless unseen hours of quiet observation, in the methodical, repetitive brushstrokes of his descriptions, and in the persistent, arduous journeys that allowed him to discover and document nature's fleeting, delicate beauty. And as you contemplate the quiet discipline and profound, enduring impact of this extraordinary self-taught botanist, may your own mind find a similar stillness, a deep sense of calm, preparing you gently for a truly restful and dream-filled sleep. Having deeply immersed ourselves in the stark, unyielding realities of building a life from absolute scratch on the untamed American colonial frontier, experiencing the immense physical toil of clearing dense land, constructing rudimentary shelter with bare hands, and then contemplating the quiet, meticulous dedication of a natural scientist like John Bartram, whose patience brought the hidden beauty of plants to life, let us now, slowly and with a profound shift in perspective, turn our gaze. We are about to step into a vastly different, yet equally poignant, realm within the same ancient civilization, the silent, fading remnants of the old colonial graveyards of early America. These are not places of bustling life and grand narratives, but rather somber, tranquil monuments to forgotten dreams, to lives lived with immense hardship and quiet faith, and to the immense unhurried power of time and nature, to slowly, inexorably reclaim what was once vibrant and filled with human sorrow and remembrance. Imagine, for a long, quiet moment, a small, enclosed plot of land nestled on the outskirts of an early colonial settlement. Today, as you might observe it, this place appears entirely natural, perhaps surrounded by a low stone wall, now partially crumbled, or a simple wooden fence slowly decaying back into the earth. The ground is covered with ancient wild grass, dotted with the weathered grey forms of gravestones, standing like silent sentinels beneath the shade of towering ancient oak or maple trees whose branches sway gently in the unseen breeze. These subtle undulations, these barely discernible irregularities in the ground, are in fact the silent imprints of countless burials, of lives that once pulsed with effort and hope, now return to the quiet earth. The light of a low morning sun, filtering through the dense canopy of leaves, casts long, raking shadows across the moss-covered stones, bringing a hidden world of remembrance to subtle, silent life. The first step in understanding these silent places involves the patient, meticulous work of observation, often without disturbing a single spade of earth. Imagine a historian or a genealogist, or even a casual visitor with a keen, observing eye, walking slowly, deliberately, across this hallowed ground. Their gaze is not fixed on the surface in haste, but trained to perceive the subtle, almost invisible details etched into the ancient stones. They search for faint, eroded inscriptions, for linear cracks that seem to follow ancient names, for slight variations in the type of stone used, or the unique carving styles that betray a specific period or artisan. These subtle clues, these barely discernible marks, are in fact the silent imprints of countless personal stories, of forgotten family histories, and of lives that once deeply mattered within the small, struggling community. The light of a low morning sun casting long, raking shadows across the moss-covered stones can sometimes reveal these ghost-like patterns with astonishing clarity, bringing a hidden world of remembrance to subtle, silent life. When these subtle clues are identified, the work transitions to a more technical, yet still profoundly quiet, archaeological and historical process. Imagine teams of researchers moving slowly across the graveyard, not with shovels, but with specialized tools like ground-penetrating radar, or with simple probes that gently test the soil for buried anomalies. This non-invasive method allows them to map the silent outlines of ancient burial plots, to detect the presence of unmarked graves, or to identify the subtle presence of wooden coffins long since decomposed. The sounds during this phase are minimal. The soft whirring of equipment, the quiet murmur of data being recorded, the rhythmic crunch of feet on grass. This meticulous, unseen mapping, performed patiently over many, many hours, slowly, precisely, begins to reconstruct the invisible blueprint of the lost community's final resting place, revealing its hidden structure without disturbing a single clod of soil. Then, when allowed and necessary, comes the slow, deliberate work of careful excavation, a profound act of revealing the past, one small layer at a time. Imagine an archaeologist kneeling in the quiet sun, not with heavy machinery or a loud excavator, but with the simplest, most fundamental of tools, a small hand trowel, its blade sharp and precise, a soft bristle brush gently sweeping away fine grains of soil, perhaps a sifting screen to catch the smallest fragments of coffin, wood, or personal effects. Each scoop of earth, each delicate sweep of the brush, is performed with unwavering focus, revealing layer upon silent layer of human history. The air is often dry, carrying the faint, earthy scent of ancient soil, of damp clay, or of long decomposed organic matter. The sounds are minimal. The soft scrape of metal on compacted earth, the gentle whisper of brushes, the quiet click of a newly discovered coffin nail or a small worn button. This slow, deliberate act of uncovering is profoundly meditative, a rhythmic connection with the hands and minds of those who lived long ago, a quiet conversation across millennia, allowing the past to gently, slowly emerge from its long slumber. Among the most intimate and poignant discoveries are the ancient gravestones themselves. Imagine tracing your fingers over the rough, weathered surface of a centuries-old stone, feeling the cold, hard texture softened by moss and lichen. The inscriptions, often simple and direct, slowly come into focus with careful attention. A name, a date of birth, a date of death, perhaps a short, heartfelt epitaph. Many of these stones reveal a harsh reality of early colonial life, the tragically high mortality rates, particularly among infants and young children. Imagine reading the gravestone of a family where several children died within a few short years of each other, their small names etched close together beneath a shared surname. This silent testimony speaks volumes about the profound sorrow and constant fragility of life in an era plagued by disease, hardship, and the unforgiving wilderness. The quiet sorrow that emanates from these stones is palpable, yet it is a sorrow tempered by the enduring stillness of the graveyard. The carving styles of these gravestones also offer a unique, silent window into the changing beliefs and artistic expressions of early colonial communities. Imagine observing the earliest stones, often crude and simple, adorned with somber yet strangely peaceful imagery. The death's head motif, for instance, a winged skull, was a common early symbol. It was not meant to be terrifying, but a direct, stark reminder of mortality, a quiet acceptance of the inevitable. Later, this evolved into the cherub or soul effigy, a winged face that suggested the soul ascending to heaven, a more hopeful and gentle depiction. Still later, the urn and willow motif emerged, symbolizing mourning and the quiet cycle of life and death. Each shift in these quiet artistic symbols tells a subtle story of changing theological perspectives, of evolving cultural sensibilities, and of the enduring human need to express grief and hope in the face of loss, all etched in silent stone. Beyond the formal gravestones, early colonial graveyards often contain evidence of more informal, unmarked burials. Imagine discovering subtle depressions in the earth or the faint outlines of wooden markers long since rotted away, indicating the resting places of the poorest members of the community, or perhaps indentured servants or slaves whose lives even in death remained largely unrecorded. These unmarked graves are the silent testament to lives lived outside the official narratives, their stories whispered only by the subtle contours of the ground. The quiet work of tracing these forgotten graves is a profound act of giving dignity and remembrance to those whose existences were often overlooked in their own time, adding layers of silent history to the landscape. The trees within these ancient graveyards are often some of the oldest and most majestic in the region. Imagine standing beneath the immense, gnarled branches of an ancient oak, its bark deeply furrowed with the marks of centuries, its leaves rustling softly in the breeze. These trees have stood as silent witnesses to countless burials, 2 generations of mourners, to the slow passage of time. Their roots, deep in the earth, intertwine with the silent narratives beneath. The soft, gentle sway of their branches, the dappled sunlight filtering through their leaves, the rustle of their foliage, all contribute to an atmosphere of profound tranquility and quiet contemplation. They are the living sentinels of the dead, their slow, patient growth a powerful symbol of enduring life amidst the stillness of the grave. The overall atmosphere of an early colonial graveyard today is profoundly unique. Unlike bustling modern cemeteries, these places often possess an overwhelming sense of timelessness and quietude. The sounds of modern visitors, even in groups, tend to be hushed, voices instinctively lowered by the weight of history that surrounds them. You walk among ancient stones, through silent rows of forgotten names, beneath the shade of ancient trees. The pervasive feeling is one of immense stillness, a sense of deep contemplation on the transient nature of human ambition and the enduring power of remembrance. The gentle sunlight filtering through the tree canopy illuminates the weathered stones, casting long, peaceful shadows. The distant murmur of modern life, the soft rustle of leaves in the occasional breeze, the chirping of cicadas in the summer sun, these are the only sounds that break the profound silence, inviting you to reflect on the lives that once thrived here, on the sorrows they bore, and on the quiet faith that sustained them in the harsh realities of early America. These old colonial graveyards, often overlooked in the grand narratives of colonial expansion, stand as quiet, powerful monuments not just to individual lives, but to the collective experience of an entire era. They are a profound, silent testament to the challenges of survival, the constant presence of death, and the enduring human need to remember and to find meaning in loss. They whisper stories of communities forged in hardship, of families striving for a new beginning, and of the quiet faith that sustained them through unimaginable trials. Their silent stones, slowly weathering with the passage of time, continue to offer glimpses into a past where life was often short, but profoundly lived, and where eternity was embraced with a solemn, quiet hope. And as you contemplate these enduring mysteries, these quiet, unspoken stories from the heart of early colonial America, may your own mind find a similar stillness, a deep sense of peace as you drift towards a most restful and dream-filled sleep.